a very quintessential product leader in the space. Um, I usually do something. Anytime I want to do this, I try to learn about the person anywhere I can, right? On the internet. Even I go to their handles if I get hold of anyone, just to like see, what they've been doing and saying. And to be sincere, I can't even compare it, right? I can't really use words to explain how excellent a person Chinedu is, right? I get naturally attracted to people like this, and I can tell you by confidence that this webinar is going to be a big mind-blowing session. All right. So guys, join me to welcome the one and only Chinedu. His name is Chinedu, and he's currently the senior product manager, DataOps and SDLC, Matillion. Chinedu is a certified product manager and in specific a product leader with experience in building and scaling B2B and B2C products. He holds a bachelor degree, not a bachelor degree, a bachelor's degree in mathematics. I would say in the great mathematics, right? And computer science from the University of Port Harcourt. Um, I have a word to say, but I will just keep it to myself. All right. Um, he had a great degree in a great university. That's what I wanted to say. All right. He has a background in customer experience, business analysis, and product management. When they say three in one, in Yoruba, they say metalocon. That's the kind of package that I just mentioned just now. This is a total complete package that can make any product manager successful anyway, right? And I can imagine the number of years he has been, packing this kind of experience all together: customer experience, business analysis, and product management, having launched, managed, and scaled digital products in the government technology, education technology, and financial technology sector. I feel like fainting. Within the startup,
Please don't leave us. Don't faint, please. I beg.
in the Nigeria tech ecosystem, he has been instrumental to market entry and launch of two fintech organizations, mostly most notably Risevest, where he was the first PM to launch and scale the product to 60K plus users in the first year. Um, wow. Okay. And an AUM of $13.2 million. You can convert it to Naira. Currently, a senior product manager at Matillion, a data productivity and B2B organization in UK. All right, that's what Matillion is. All right, where he leads the data ops and SDLC experience for their customers. Guys, permit me to say I've just successfully introduced one of the most excellent product managers you can ever come across anywhere in the world. Welcome, Chinedu, and please let's have you dish out the most anticipated knowledge pack that we've been expecting. Thank you very much, Chinedu.
Thank you. And you've successfully set me up for whatever it is we're about to go into. Um, yeah, that was too much actually, but it is really nice to be here. And I will share my screen and we'll have some conversation. So, yeah. Sorry, Bridget reached out and well, we'll go a long way. That's the only way to say it. So I thought to myself, what would be the best way to share what I've learned and for all of us to basically share in our learnings. All right. So I thought, if you look at the balancing act of product management, which is on a day-by-day basis, which is the exact thing we all do. Right. So I'll try as much as possible to split this into two main areas. The first one is, we'll go through the slides, and then we'll have enough time for us to just go into questions, right? So like I said, our job, every single thing we do, I mean, even our life is our balancing act. So you decide to go to bed late, that means you're probably going to wake up the next morning with migraine, right? You decide to sleep early, that means you're probably going to have to wake early to deliver some of the things you want to deliver. So it isn't just about product management, but for this instance, we're about to look into all the things that you get to learn before you get into the field, all right? And what you actually see in the field. And then what is the best way to make sure you figure out a way to survive, right? So, well, as too many bios, I don't even think we need this slide. There's one bit of information I should have added to this slide, which is I have a young family and I have a 16-month-old daughter. So I had a very interesting picture I wanted to add to this slide, but I wasn't sure my wife would approve of it. So you're left with icons instead of pictures, right? So like he mentioned, first thing into tech was customer support analyst. Did first line support, second line support. So, you know, every single time I tell the story about how I got to where I am right now. So I tell the story about it was intentional. So you're sitting on those desks, you're getting those issues from the customers. You want to be able to solve those problems before they become incidents, right? Because when it comes to the customer support decks, they're actually incidents. So I moved a little bit towards, you know, business analyst, system analyst, and dabbled into engineering just a little bit. And then found myself in product management. Again, the journey is about how do I get closer and closer and closer to the customers? How do I solve that problem for them before it becomes an incident? A couple of the companies I've worked with are there. So I think the notable ones would be Vsauce. That's probably where my product management career started. And then there's obviously Rise. And I'm currently leading DataOps and software development lifecycle in a company in the UK. So we're focusing more of your data from multiple sources. So think Google Sheets, databases, bringing them into one single data warehouse and helping you to make sense of it. So my job is figuring out how we don't break users' processes, right? And to give them the power of the product that we supply to them. Well, that's a boring story about me that you already had. So, well, there's an interesting story I want to tell that is split into three main parts, which is kind of aligns with what we're about to discuss about balancing the act of what needs to be done. So there's a part one. I think, you know, maybe when you look at these pictures, you get a sense of where I'm headed. There's you about to solve, and then the part two part looks like you're drowning just a little bit. And there's the part three part where you're surfing, right? There's the waves, but you're just riding the wave. So it begins, which is probably what happens to every single, if not most of us on this call, is you think to yourself, you know what? I need to get closer to the user. I need to be able to solve problems, right? And you start looking at what is the best route to get you closer to those users. And you find product management, or you just want to be in tech for the fun of it. And you don't want to do coding, you don't want UX, but you know, you want to be able to have more control about what happens. You start looking into product management and you go, oh, excited, let's set up the ship and let's sail, right? Let the exploration begin. Now, there's you learning all the interesting things which we are going to run through in the next couple of slides. There's you looking at the interesting things. I think the biggest one that jumps at you is like, well, we know this code. Think like a customer, identify their pain points and solve them. Yes. I mean, you're absolutely right. Bang on. If you do this, you're on the money, right? All you just need to do is, who are my customers? Identify their pain points and solve them. We'll be okay. It looks almost like the bedrock of every single thing that we'll do within product management. And like I said, because my journey is about getting closer to the user, this is exactly what kind of drew me into product management. So as you keep digging in, or as you keep exploring, whether you're just digging in for the sake of digging in, or you've just got your first product management role, right? You read books, you read blogs, you try to explore, you listen to calls like this one that we're having now on webinars, and people tell you, you know what, you get on frameworks, they exist to make a product, to set them up for success. And for the most part, I think they do, right? So you hone in on framework, there's the OST, there's a RISE model, there's just a bunch of them, and then you hone in and you learn about the framework, and you're feeling very, very cool with your life, that if I get in and I unleash these frameworks, they will know that I have arrived. So personally, I think a couple of people have spoken with here, and I've had the privilege to meet. I tell them stakeholder management or alignment, whatever we'll call it, is an interesting concept in product management. It's so interesting because there's so many nuances to it, and you need to figure out how to do it right. But one of the things I learned when I started this journey again is, one of the things I read is, all you need is the product vision, the North Star. Everyone aligns to the North Star. You get the engineers, the UX, management will understand why we're doing what we're doing, as long as you have a North Star. As long as you have a vision, we are aligned. That's what we all need. And there's probably you that have, wealth of product management experience. You've done it a couple of years, or you've probably just read books, right? You've looked at blogs. Again, you've come on webinars like this. You've learned from the expert, and then you're going, yeah, I think I know enough right now, right? There's that product management experience. I think that is important, and that knowledge is universal. And for the most part, it is. If you're a PM in Nigeria, you used to be a PM in the UK. You're still a PM in Canada, right? And then we'll tell ourselves that domains are, they rarely affect the things I know. It almost never happens. And again, that's what the book tells us, that all you just need to do is to be a really great PM on paper, understand the theory, and you will be fine. So that's the part one. This is you, that you're getting into it, you're learning about it, you just started it. Again, this is what my journey looks like for me. I got into it, and I've gone through that first part, and I thought, you know what, I'm ready for the market. But are you really? Or the last part is the business takes care of itself once you cater for the customers. Yes, it is true. As long as I have customers that I can take care of, the business will definitely take care of itself. I solve the problems for my customers, just aligning with the very first slide about, identify your customer's pain point, and the business will be fine. Yep, it is. You're right. I mean, at least that's what the book says. Now, to the second part, this is us. Now, we've learned all the interesting thing about product management. We've think, there's really not so much into this, right? We'll be fine. And then we get in, I start looking a little bit different. Sometimes we look lost, right? So the question is why? Then you start seeing that there are too many nuances to even identify what the right customer is. A couple of keywords there, right, and customer. So an example of this is when we launched Risevest. So we had very interesting set of users. So we've done the wonderful thing around personas, that wonderful thing you do, demographics, the right age, their likes, their behaviors. Then we'll launch the product, right? Of course, we're young, we didn't factor in so many things. What happened was that what we learned was that we had to bucket our users into 5 different segments. So the first segment had the highest number of users, right? But gave us the least amount of money. The second segment kind of follows that path. And then the third segment had the third highest number of users. Actually, no. Yeah, the third highest number of users, but gave us the most amount of money, right? In terms of AUM. So the question becomes, what is the behavior? What behaviors do we need to encourage for that third segment to make sure that they keep using Rise over and over again? Now, if you're going by, I just need customers and I solve the pain points, you almost tilt towards the first bucket, which is they have the highest number of people for the least amount of money. So those nuances are not always explained in the books and in the theoretical part of it. You get into it and then you identify the nuances, and your eyes are just as bulkily out as the guy I have on the bottom right corner of this slide. You're probably going to see him across the remaining some slides. So now you join the team and then you look at the team and then you see, oh wow, nobody uses frameworks here. Or they use very little framework. Or even those that use kind of adapts that framework to meet certain business use cases. Now your eyes are, your sockets are out again and you're thinking, so all these things I've learned, how does that make sense? Or how do I kind of balance it? We'll get to it. And then there's a product vision part where we say, you know what, as long as I have the nice product vision, stakeholders are going to align to it. Yeah, it doesn't happen exactly like that. Excuse me. When you find out that stakeholder alignment becomes a little bit more interesting and more challenging, right? Like I said, personally, this is probably the most challenging aspect of being a product manager, getting very brilliant people to align on whatever you think they need to align on, right? It is hard. So now you're moving across multiple industries. So if you follow my journey, you do notice that I think when Allah was mentioning it, he mentioned something around being in GovTech, being in EdTech, I've done FinTech, and now I'm in data. Actually, I was in logistics before I got into data, right? So that's like, I can maybe five different industries, right? What you now find out that those your wonderful wealth of product management experience might just not be enough, right? So how do you make sense of the industry? How do you really become a great product manager? Because you need the industry. Yeah, that's a very big question. We don't know how to answer it. Just aligning with what I mentioned on the very first slide on part 2, which is a business needs the right set of customers to take care of itself. So going back to that example I gave about Risevest, if we had channeled our energy on that first bucket of users, because of course they had the highest number of people, and we continually solved their pain point, which is their problems. I mean, you could argue we're solving user problems, right? Right. Of course, we are solving user problems. But the business wouldn't take care of itself because just maybe we're not solving the user problems for the right set of customers. That takes me to part 3, which is riding the wave. So when you look at the first part and the second part, you probably notice complete disparity between those. So the question that we want to answer, what we need to get out of this call is, how do we become really great product managers? How do we find that balance between, all the books, all the webinars you've attended, all the things that we've learned, right? And how do we make it as we climb, whether you want to climb the product leadership ladder, or whether you want to basically just, do product management for the fun of it, but you need the right balance, right? How do you ride that wave? Because it is a very scary wave. So here comes the balancing act. Brace yourself, you probably see some controversial calls at the next couple of slides. So now, if you noticed on part 1 and part 2, I kind of stuck business as the last one that we talked about. But on this part, which is part 3, I stuck business at the top. Every single business, every single one of them exists to make money. So think about this in the context of you want to buy something in the market, or you go to a shop, you have a few coins, right? What you want to do is to get into that shop, drop your coins, and get value out of the shop, right? And that's what every single business exists to do. whether it's the guy in Alabama market or the guy in Bullring market, or Facebook, Apple, as why there's quarterly earnings at the end of every single quarter. Whether you're a startup, the reason why investors are putting money into it is because probably at some point in their life they will get money to retire. So every single business exists to make money. And if you're a product manager, you need to reorient yourself on this very simple act, right? So which kind of leads me to what you have on the bottom, which is organizational goals, even over product roadmaps. So because we are product people and we're so zoned in on the user problems, right? Then we'll have this interesting thing that we need to build. But all you don't understand is that at the end of every single financial year, someone needs to pay your salary. The business needs to be even more profitable. They need to talk about ARR at the end of the day, right? So the thing is, at the end of every financial year, the organization goals will most likely change. What we call pivot in product management is they would adapt to microeconomic challenges, which is what we are facing in tech at the moment. They either adapting to get new logos, or they adapting to retain existing customers. So instead of overly zoning into your product roadmap, your job is to align with the organizational goals. And one more interesting to talk about when you look at the even over strategy is not saying that dump your product roadmap and overly and focus just on the organizational goals. What even over is telling you here is it's saying if you find yourself in a place where you need to just pick one of them over the other, yeah, it has to be the organizational goals. And that's how you balance that act. The act is, there are two conflicting priorities. How do I find the beam to balance and make sure that I remain profitable, my users get the best value, and the business still gets the best value? And the second one is, the right user unlocks revenue for the business. The point I said, again, a couple of keywords, the rights and user. If you focus on the wrong user, it's not that you're not going to give, you're still going to be solving user problems, right? But you're not going to be delivering value for the right users, and you're not also going to be delivering value for the business. So value even over user problems. Yeah, it is very, very super controversial. I mean, Chinedu, you're saying I should forgo user problems and think about value. The best way to think about it is what exactly is value for the business and what is value for the organization. In this case is what we're identifying right now at my current organization. So we had this slogan when we launched a new product called the 10 minutes to wow. What we wanted to make sure is that our users can move from creating their accounts, adding their multiple sources of data that they want, and running what we call a pipeline within 10 minutes, right? So if they can achieve that, that means we're giving them value. I mean, that's what the users want. But then there's a flip side to it, which is what is value for the organization, right? Value for the organization is we want you to be able to consume credits, right? So how do we make sure that while we're thinking about the 10 minutes to wow for the user, we are thinking about aligning that credit consumption to the 10 minutes to wow. So that way you're solving a real user problem, which is I give that user value, immediately it gets into my product. Well, while I'm also unlocking revenue for the business. Oh yeah, frameworks are overrated. I think they are. Yeah, this is, like I said, it is a very controversial one, but your problem is not framework. Again, when you think of the business and when you think of the user, you need to give value to both people, right? And value, for the most part, is really not driven by frameworks. it is driven by a working solution, which is why I'm saying working solution even over frameworks. Now, you get into a specific spot where, again, about the even over strategy. It's saying if you find yourself where you have to basically choose amongst any of them, you have to choose a working solution. Now, it is interesting because we overly zone in on frameworks and forget that it really has to work, right? If it doesn't work, there's no value for the business, there's no value for the organization. There's absolutely no value for you as a product manager, and there's absolutely no point to be in your role. I'm sorry, that was harsh, but that's the truth. So now, what does a working solution look like? The working solution could be an adaptation of an existing framework. So very good example is what we use now in deciding which of the features get into our product roadmap is we use the RISE model, right? But it is an adapted version of the RISE model that takes into account, what the business goals are, or we really want our customers to get out of the solution, right? And then it takes in like some very interesting bits that when you bring them all together, it is a working solution that's against the framework. And it wouldn't be something that you go to Google and then you search framework for prioritization and you find it on Google. And for the most part, most organizations you're going to join, they're going to do exactly the same thing. So like I said, I believe and I still think this is stakeholder management is the interesting piece that binds every single thing together, because our role as product managers is basically you don't have any single one that reports to you, except you're a leader where you have other PMs that report to you. But in most cases, you have the UX kind of reporting to the UX lead, you have the engineers reporting to the engineering manager, sometimes the CEO. Question, and they're brilliant people that you're working with, right? So how do you make sure that you bring every single one to align with whatever lofty visions that you have, right? While you deliver on that vision. And it is done by relationship. It's not by shoving your product vision down every single person's throat. It's by building relationships. And then I'll always take them over product vision every day. It makes your life easier. When you build the right relationship, your product vision gets easier to be aligned to. So now this bit, it's again, probably controversial. The domain knowledge will always be king. There's, in my opinion, absolutely no two ways about it. When I got into Rise, I was coming from a completely different place, right? So I needed to understand how finance works. So I've been in GovTech, a little bit of EdTech here and there. Finance is a completely new field for me. But I needed to understand not just how finance works, but how wealth management works. You never solve a problem you don't understand. And the best way to understand the problem is to understand the domain. And the first thing I do when I join the organizations and I have absolutely no idea, or I'm coming from a different domain, is to turn into a sponge, right? I would disturb every single person that have been in that field for the longest time. And I will learn as much as I can learn from them. Excuse me. So with your wealth of product management experience, having done it 10, 5, 50, 20 years, if you don't have the right domain knowledge, you would have absolutely no idea what to build. And it's interesting because that is the context for every single thing that you're going to be doing. That's the context that helps you drive revenue for the business. That's the context that helps you know the right users to speak with. That's the context that helps you know exactly how to engage with the multiple stakeholders, marketing, management, your customers, the engineers, right? That's all you need. So again, like I said, my experience across different industries, I turn to a sponge when I get into those kind of zones. I think this is probably my last slide. Yes, that was my last slide. So just a quick recap on what I've talked about so far is a three-part story of you get in, or you're starting the journey and you're overly excited. And then you get in and then you see, ooh, wow, this is crazier than I thought. And then there's you doing, oh, okay, this is how I survive. This is you balancing and surfing across that. Yeah, I tried to get all of that in a very short, I hope that was short amount of time so that we'll have time for questions or any other thing that you want to talk about. And the questions might be related to what we've talked about. It might not be related to what we've talked about. I'll be happy to answer any of those.
Thank you, Chinedu. Before Olasende will say something, thank you so much. I love that you said the question can be related to this, it might not be related to it. So Chinedu is trying to tell you that you can do group mentorship for us as a senior man. So if you have questions, product-related questions, signify by raising up your hands, and Olasende will call you up. Olasende, are you there?
Yes, Bridget, I'm with you.
Over to you.
Thank you very much. I don't like when we don't help Google use what they've given to us. Can we just give Chinedu a resounding, even if I can't hear, but I can see and I can feel it, round of applause. I'm giving as much as possible, right? Thank you so much, Chinedu, for that wonderful session. Like I said before you started, when people are talking from a point of experience and expertise, it is in no doubt going to be one thing, which is going to always be heavily a nutshell, but a heavy nutshell. So the things you were saying were so brief and accurate, like they were direct, they were simple. And I'm sure that if anybody is going to ask any question here today, right, these questions are going to be questions that has to do with how they can get to, even do more with what you've shared today, right? So I'm really glad a lot of people attended this meeting, and I would just want us to ask questions based on everything Chinedu has shared with us today. I can see Emanuela's hand up. So just before I call on Emanuela, if you have any questions as well, please you can use the hand button, or if you don't want to, right? Even though I encourage you to, all right, you can also drop your question on the chat box. So I'll go with Emanuela first. Then after that, I'll go with Oshayuki. So Emanuela, please.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Chinedu. This was really very insightful. So I'm an aspiring product manager who has been working in HR in healthcare for a while, and I've already been fascinated with healthcare.
Yeah.
How do I then transfer, because I've got extensive experience in HR, just managing different and multiple stakeholders? How do I transfer that experience, right, into product management? Because every time I have conversations, people are like, oh, well, we don't see the connection with HR and PM. But I'm like, I go to product meetings, I go to sprints, I help do testing. So I'm just looking for a way to be able to communicate that I have transferable skills from HR coming into product management. So I don't know if you have any advice, any tip, or anything that you can share. Thank you so much.
Yeah, good question. So the thing is, anyway, first off, don't listen to anyone that tells you that you can move into product management. Anyone can. And the second one is, I'm not going to talk about what we PMs refers to as the technical part of what we do. I'm going to tell you about the soft skills part of it. So if you've been in HR, first of all, you have, like I said, the domain knowledge can never be taken away from you. You could be whatever you want to be in HR. That's one. And the second bit is, you say HR and tech, yes? So the second bit is you speak with people every single time. That's stakeholder management. right? Every single time. That's so. What I do is when it comes to stakeholder management, there's too many ways to approach people. Well, which is what you learn when you're doing the work in HR, right? You speak with different employees different ways. I think the idea is to look into the more soft skill part of it, right? Stakeholder management, domain experience, again, understanding the business, probably understanding the users within that specific industry that you've been working with. If you zone in on all these things, which is very similar to what we kind of discussed here today, if you zone in on all those things, I believe that every other thing can be learned. That includes, whatever we're calling technical skills. And what you realize is as you kind of evolve, which is what is most important, as I've gone through those processes, you realize that the things that becomes more important as you climb up that ladder wouldn't be those, overly technical skills. It would be these soft skills that will keep you afloat. I hope that kind of makes sense and answers the question.
Yes, it does. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Thank you, Emanuela, for asking that question. And thanks, Chinedu, for bringing much clarity to it. So please, next person, Oshayuki. Sorry, I'm struggling with your name. Oshayuki, please go ahead.
Thank you, Ola. Thank you very much, Chinedu, for this insightful session, even though my network was trying to mess me up at different times. Your last slide was about domain experience over, I've forgotten what you compared it side by side with.
Oh, product experience.
Over product experience, great. Yeah. Now, my question is, right, like for someone like you, you've moved from different industries, so to say. Yep. So how does someone pick up that domain experience as quickly as possible? Because the truth is, you don't have lots of time to try to have results, to get results, right? So if you're going from fintech to maybe EdTech, or you're going to an entirely different industry, right? So how are you able to kind of pick up this domain experience? Because the users are different and you have to approach things fairly differently, right? So what's the best way? How do you, from your own experience, how are you able to quickly catch up and get this knowledge you need to kind of get results as quickly as possible?
So, like I said, I become a sponge, right? I basically absorb as much as I can. I disturb people. There's something that people don't understand when you join the organizations, right? When you join a new organization, we overly focus on trying to make a point. Most times, it happens to the best of us. It has happened to me too at some point, right? You overly focus on trying to make a point. You're no longer being interviewed, right? If you have been interviewed, you're there because they know you have some value to bring to the organization. Of course, there's importance of just getting any quick win to kind of solidify that value. But you're no longer being interviewed. It's okay to drop that immediate pressure of trying to show that you know what you're doing. And like I said, this is very hard to do, right? Now, if you get to that point where you work very hard enough to drop that pressure, what you find out is that you keep your mind so wide open that you will learn so much within a short period of time. And the interesting bit is, it is exactly when you join an organization that you should be crazy about learning, right? So it's okay for you to make mistakes then, and people will be like, yeah, he's fairly new, right? Let's leave him, let's cut him some slack. That's the exact time you need to be doing it. And then, of course, one of the things I also do is, as much as you can, just try and piggyback or start the learning process earlier before you join, right? You could, ramp up, do a crash course, whatever you need to do as quickly as possible. Of course, like I said, there's just a limit to what you can learn before you join an organization. Just bug people respectfully. Just disturb people. Like, join that call join the organization within the first 1-3 months. Your job is to pester people with questions, right? You'll be shocked at how many people that will be willing to help you, and you'll be shocked at how quickly you will upskill with just that. Example is Risevest. I think almost every single one here knows Eke. I don't think everyone, but most people will know him. So when I joined, Eke is a huge finance guy. I'm absolutely nothing near finance when I joined. I asked him, how do I need to learn this thing? What books do I need to read? What do I need to learn finance and wealth management? And he shared those books with me. And I read some of those books. That's exactly how I got a deeper insight on understanding of the domain I found myself. And of course, if you understand that domain, it's easier for you to understand what the user needs are and address those needs. Yeah, that was long, but I hope I kind of made sense too.
Are you still there? Oshayuki, right?
Yes,
Sorry.
yes, I was reacting. Yes. Thank you very much, Chinedu. That was very insightful. Thanks a lot. Osayuki. Osayuki, yes, thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Okay. Guys, please, if you still have questions, you can use the chat box. You can, put your hand up to ask questions from the speaker, or you can also use the activity icon, right, to navigate around the question and answer section and ask your question either by putting your name or anonymously, right? While we wait for that, we still have some couple of minutes. So, I'm just going to go ahead with, okay, Bridget I have a question. So let me pause. Bridget, please go ahead.
I can see someone's question on the chat box. I think let's go with the question first before mine.
Okay. On the chat box, right? I'm trying to find the question.
I think there's a question.
Have you seen it?
Okay, yeah, I've seen it. So there's a question here from Akim. Hi, Chinedu. Thanks for the session. My question is, what advice will you give to a new PM on what to learn and what to also include in their CV mostly when they are yet to get any prior experience?
So, there's some interesting things to include on your CV, but for context, it depends on the role, right? So, sorry, I think I just remembered you said new PM. So if you're a new PM, so we're expecting you to, for the most part, it's going to be like an entry-level role. A deep understanding of what we've talked about today helps you go a long way. Understanding that. So the thing is, if a business employs you, right, they want your services, they pay you a specific amount of money, let's call it 10K, for instance, right? So they expect to make that money from you. That there's no two ways about it. That's exactly how it works, right? So they'll give you money for you to give them value. So the first thing for you to understand is have the mindset that I'm not just going to be a PM, I'm going to contribute to the bottom line. And what is that bottom line? Annual recurring revenue, right? Whatever, whether it's monthly recurring revenue or whatever the business decides to do. If it's a startup, I'm going to help that business raise money, right? Again, it's about what value can you drive. So with that understanding, what should be in your CV is about how you drive impact. I can't specifically say keywords, but it's about how you drive impact in terms of revenue, how your understanding of the user problem, your understanding of, what needs to be done for discovery. And then because it's an entry-level role, they expect you to do some what I call product operations, which is, either you're managing Jira or you're running Scrum meetings. So, I expect you to have a good sense of what those frameworks are, right? But have that in mind that by the time you get in, a couple of things might change. You might need to adapt those frameworks to make sure it aligns with what those business goals are. So if you have that understanding, then it's easier for you to kind of, prep your CV for the role. And of course, There's a little hack every single one of us have, which is you look at what the JD says, and then you try to figure out the keywords that they have on the JD and figure out how to stick it into your CV, and that will obviously help you. And then there's a second bit, which is people that look at your resume or your CV. Or I'm saying this from my point of view. We have very little time. We almost don't want to go through. There's like hundreds of the CV that we need to look at. So what most people are looking at, what will jump on them. It might be a color. It might be a quick description of what the organization that you initially were working with does, right? It gives me a sense of, okay, this might be instrumental to the work that we're doing. It might not be immediately. It might be something that whoever is hiring is thinking of maybe in the next 6 months or in the next 3 months. But just because you gave them a glimpse of what your current organization does, they'll know you have enough transferable skills to help him achieve the goal that he set out for himself down the line. So yeah, those are kind of the tips that I will mention. And I hope that makes sense too. I felt like I rambled at some point. Yeah.
Yeah, I think Akim got everything. Thank you very much. All right. So just to wrap up, I have this question for you. So there's this question from, I've been reflecting on everything you've said so far. And I went back to the topic and I just realized that there's really a very thin line between what is ideal and what is true.
Yep.
It's a bit, it's like, what I mean is, I feel like it's a bit different from when you probably, if this topic was something like, I don't know, what is not real, or what looks like a mirage, right? And what is true, that would have been a different conversation entirely. But in the sense of what is ideal and what is true, it just makes it look totally different. And I picked a little bit from what you said when you said you get to an organization, you realize that nobody uses framework, or maybe just very little. It's being used, or maybe you get to an organization and you see that what matters is not your product roadmap, even though it still matters to some extent. But what really matters at the end of the day is the organization goal. So, I'm thinking about this and I'm placing it side by side with what is ideal and what is true. And it got me thinking. So I just want to, what is it called? I want you to just, give one last tip, right, to everybody on this call concerning how they can navigate the reality of product management, right, especially when they are facing stakeholder management challenge, specifically stakeholder management challenge.
So, I said I was going to say this and kind of forgot it, but this question was the right question for me to say this. So you see how we climb the product ladder and people go, you have to do like 2 years, you have to do like 3 years before you become, whether you're a senior product manager or you're a product leader. That's a fallacy. What happens within that number of years is that you because you've done it over and over again, you get a bit more in tune with what makes businesses tick, right? You get a bit more deeper understanding into what you need to do, what you need to tell the upcoming PMs, right? So that's exactly why. So it feels like the number of years is ideal for you to be a senior product manager or a product leader. That's not it. What is ideal is that, well, what is true is that as long as you have a deep understanding, whether you do this in 2 years, you do it in 6 months, right? Of course, you can't completely negate experience, by the way. You do it in 2 years, you do it in 6 months. You have a deep understanding of where the business is headed. Align your roadmap enough to the vision of the company goals, right? Align, know exactly how to build a relationship. Especially, like I said, you can't drive any vision without proper relationship. Whether it's the way you communicate with people, whether it's the little chuckle you make within as you're talking to people, or whether it's the little smile that you smile when you're having those conversations, right? As long as you understand this very well, you understand that concept, right? That is the true nature of product management. Now, the ideal way is, like I said, everyone expects you to have, you go through aspiring product manager, become a product manager, take a couple of more years. Now you get into senior product manager or director or VP, and then you become a CPO. That's not it. That is what the world tells us, and that is what looks ideal. It feels like you have to have done that 50 years of experience before you go, oh, now I understand. I can call myself a senior product manager. Like I said, you're not going to throw away experience, right? You're not going to say, well, let's chuck experience by the way and just move on with our life. No, that's not right. But what makes you get closer and closer to, the corporate ladder, if that is what you want to achieve, is by understanding these true principles. Like I said, it's probably going to come across almost all the organizations that you will find yourself in, right? Ubisoft, Google, and Apple, very similar things, right? So you will learn, as long as you understand this concept of that we've discussed on this call. You're well on your way. You don't need to do 20 years before you become a chief product officer. And this is what really separates, the regular PMs from the great ones. You have this clear understanding. Like I said, the true nature of product management is what we discussed in our part one. Oh, users, oh, businesses will be taken care of. Oh, domain knowledge is okay. But the true nature of it is understanding that you need to balance it out, right? If you find yourself in a place of what really exists, you have to, company goals over product roadmaps, all those kind of things that sets you apart. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for that response. I think we are now just 3 minutes away from ending this webinar series, but at the same time, I can see we have Bridget's hand up and Ikpon
Ikposa. Before you murder the name.
Yeah,
Ikposa
so
can go. Yeah.
okay, yeah, sure. Bridget.
Ikposa,
Ikposa,
please go
please go ahead.
ahead.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. Good evening, my Oga Chinedu. So, quick one. You mentioned about striking the sweet balance between maintaining your roadmap and focusing on organizational goals.
Yeah.
I think that's very important. I not if I emphasize it. My question is, you agree with me that maintaining organizational goals can require of agility, that is that willingness and ability to change plans from a manager.
Yeah.
What's your opinion is a healthy level of agility?
So now this is obviously from an experience point of view, right? Business is mostly kind of switch the agility every 3 months, every quarter, all right? But there's at the end of or at the beginning of every financial year, they set out what is going to be that overarching vision. This is, we want to do 80 million ARR by the end of this year. We want 50,000 customers, or we want 100,000 new logos. Whatever that real yearly goal is, right? It's always been set out, and for the most part, like I said, it's always set out around money and revenue. Now, the question now becomes, how do we get to revenue or that goal by doing things on a quarterly basis, right? So, like I said, from my experience, we set goals every quarter. However, in very interesting cases, those goals can change in the next month. But there's always going to be, what most PMs are going to call the North Star. There's always going to be the one that the organization wants to hit at the end of the financial year. Right. App is going to tell you they've estimated to do 2 billion at the end of FY24. Same thing with Google. So it's centered around revenue, which is why I said if you have the clear understanding that every business exists to make money, it makes it easier for you to build around the fact that, you know what, we have to drive revenue. So yeah, to shorten that answer and make it a bit more straightforward, reasonable level is every 3 months, which is every quarter, but with a view in mind of the overarching goal, which is always set for on a yearly basis.
All right. Thank you very much. That was very helpful. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Iposa. Bridget, please go ahead.
Alas.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, so I really don't have a question. Chinedu, I don't have a question. He knows. But anyway, it's past 8, right? Just want to appreciate Chinedu for coming on board, right? I usually say this anytime they call me to give a talk in terms of breaking into product management, my experience, and all of those things. I always share a story, right? I always start with I didn't want to do product management, but there was this certain someone that forced me into it, but I ended up liking it. That certain someone is on this call, is Chinedu, right? He introduced me to PM, right? Everything I know, like majority of what I know as a PM and still holding me to now came from Chinedu. So if maybe there was no Chinedu, I would have never been a PM, neither would I even be in this community. People have no budget, your friendly PM on Slack. So yeah, that is the Chinedu finally. For the people that are on this call, like get to see a legend making. All right, yeah. So thank you, Chinedu, and thank everyone for joining the call. We appreciate it. Over to you, Olaseyide.
Yeah, Bridget, I was still saying thank God for Chinedu.
Yeah, so thank you for Chinedu.
Thank you for gifting us, Bridget. Yeah, she has been a great gift to the community, obviously. So thank you for making yourself available today. Thank you for putting on your camera, to show us how beautiful you can smile when you're dishing out a lot of things at the same time. So we really appreciate everything you've said today. We do hope that, of course, this is not going to be the last of it, like even if not the next event, but sometimes in the future we hope to see you again. And for everyone that joined this webinar session, thank you for joining, and take whatever it is that you've learned today, right, to wherever you're practicing as a product manager, or if you're still learning, anything at all, just take it along and make it part of you. Dissipate it in your area of responsibilities, and I'm sure you're not going to regret it. Thank you very much, everyone, again, and see you at the other side. And of course, it is not permitted not to say thank you, Chinedu, before you leave. So please let it keep coming. Thank you, Chinedu. Thank you.
Thank you, Chinedu. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Chinedu, I have a bone to pick with you, but it's all good.
Yeah.
Operations can stop recording now.
Thank you.